This is my Maginot system, a no RNG system that is essentially impenetrable that you can get in every single game that you play if you really wanted to. In this video, I'll be walking through exactly how to get to this point, but to do so, I will first break down how starbases, orbital rings, citadels, and defense platforms work. Then break down all the buffs and modifiers that can apply to these, which will allow me to outline a super consistent plan that you can apply to any game that you play to make this ultimate defensive system. I will then see how it fares against the 25 times crisis. Surely it can hold against that. We'll have to see. Let's get into it. So to start, we obviously have the starbase. The starbase has been in the game since the beginning, although slightly different. Now you start with a starport, which if you look at the starbase details, has some weapons and utilities, armor, shields, a slot. You can't customize these, unfortunately, but you can manipulate what is on them. For example, if we replace this trade hub with a gun battery, it will give ship and armor hit points to the starbase and a defense platform cap. It'll add 2 medium-sized weapon slots to the starbase too. So when it's built, you can see there's 2 extra medium slots. You need the Starhull technology to start upgrading it. Every time you upgrade, you're going to get more armor, more starbase modules, more buildings, more defensive platform cap, and more sensor range. The HP, the fleet power, everything goes up. But of course, we're going for the max, the Citadel technology. Now we can go a bit crazy and get ancient ramparts. These will cost minor artifacts, but they'll give the starbase 15% armor and hull, but it'll give 1 more defensive platform cap, and it will give defensive platforms more damage and more hull. This is important because our strategy is going to be mainly relying on defense platforms, which we will get into. Defense platforms can actually be designed and customized, so we have greater control and we reduce the RNG. As you can see, we have just gotten nanite autocannons spammed because they have the best fleet power. Fleet power doesn't necessarily mean they're good, but this design is really weird and we want to reduce that RNG. With the ancient rampart, if we take Archeo engineers, we will actually get buffs to them. That's going to be an ascension pick you're going to want to take. As you can see, we're getting an additional 5% starbase armor, but we also get armor hardening, which essentially means if there was bypass weapons going through armor, 10% of the damage would still hit the armor. Now, what are these building slots? These can usually buff or give resources like the Hydra Bay. So we're going to want to cram as many military buffs like the target uplink computer, which will give more weapon range, or the defensive grid, which will give us more defensive platforms, which we're going for. To actually know what we're going to build, we're going to want to go onto our setup later on. So I'm going to skip over the buildings for now. Now, the orbital ring is a mid-game megastructure, or a kilostructure, as I like to call them, where you can only build them around inhabited planets, like Earth here. They'll cost you 1,000 alloys and 50 influence and will take 720 days to build, but once built, they're a starbase above the planet, and you can still have your starbase in the middle. You can see where this is going. Now, at tier 1, you get 2 module slots and 2 defensive platforms, but you can kit these out with most module slots. Interesting enough, you can't have the ancient rampart, but you can still put more weapons on them. To upgrade them, though, you can either have a colony ascension tier greater than or equal to 3, which is your ascensions, or you can upgrade your building here, which will let you go up to tier 2, which then gives you an extra module slot and a building slot. These building slots can buff up planet production, but we're going for the Maginot. We want pure firepower, so we could go for a defensive grid supercomputer for more defensive platforms, for example. To upgrade again, you need tier to be 5, or you need another upgrade to your capital, which you can only get once you have more than 5,000 pops, giving you 4 slots and 2 building slots. This will then give you a bunch of military weapons on your ring. That's obviously being selected automatically, but we do have a 15k station here that's not optimized, and we have no defensive platforms. Now, the new entry is, of course, the Starlit Citadel. It's a tech that can be found by anyone with the Biogenesis TLC, which if you are thinking of getting the Biogenesis TLC, you can use my link in the description, which will take you to the Paradox store, which will give me and my channel a cutback based on whatever you buy. You can also use the code EP for Stellaris. The store works by giving you a Steam key, but then redeem on Steam. It should follow regional pricing, and sometimes the sales that are on Steam are also on there. This is not time limited, so you can use it whenever, and it's also not limited to just Stellaris. You can buy any Paradox game or DLC and use my code or link in the description. It's greatly appreciated. Now back to the video. If you start the Starlit Citadel, you get a bunch of buffs towards them, but you also get an extra Citadel system capacity. You can get extra capacity as well by going Eternal Vigilance, which is another +1, and then of course getting a Mega Engineering, which gives you a further +1 system capacity. This is not empire-wide, this is system capacity. To start, they cost 2,500 Unity and 1,000 alloys. They will start with 1 building slot and a bunch of weapon armaments and armor and shields. Now, the best thing about the Deep Space Citadel, if we come over to Ship Designer, we can actually design the layouts. There are no other sections that you can choose from, so you always have this many P slots, L slots, and H slots, but you can customize this. You need the Deep Space Citadel technology from Society to actually upgrade. You then get 2 building slots, and to the 3rd tier, you get 4. We have a base of 15 defense platforms as well, which are very similar to the Starbase ones. And then for the design, unless you know your enemy, you probably want to run with a 50-50 design. I would tend to run a split of probably kinetic artillery for 100% shield damage, and then going plasma cannons, which do more to armor and hull. X slot, I love the focus armor. You just penetrate shield and armor, so if it hits, it's basically one-shotting something. You have to go Strikecraft, and they're better than their Archaeotech counterpart. And then again for P slots, I tend to just run 50-50 like so. Now you will also have A slots where you could get daily hull and armor regen, which actually could be very good because look at the hull and armor. 3 of those on gives 30% armor regen and 15% hull. Now if you're later on in the game and you have nanites, you could even go nanite repair swarms, which give hull and armor regen, but 15 and 20%. However, the nanite repair system's quite difficult to get your hands on. You won't get them naturally through the text. You either have to gill a scavenger bot, go Flood of Supremacy, which is from the nanite ascension path, or get Cosmogenesis level 5. You'll go for chance to hit. We'll just murder people. Then on the right, you have your components. We do have generators, you have sensors, which will give you extra tracking. Then you have a fire control, which will give you ship fire rate and tracking. Then you have an FTL inhibitor, and then you have the interesting stuff, Starbase and new auras. The default one is the targeting override, which is going to make enemies target these citadels more so than other things, which could be decent, but there's some other good stuff here. Now, the communication jammer, the disruption field generator, and I believe the command center are good on their own, but they don't stack auras. And we're going to have a starbase orbital rings that are probably giving these auras, so we're not going to need them on here. You can't actually build those in the building slots on the citadel, but again, we're going to have a big old starbase in the middle that can easily give these buffs. And starbases won't get access to the less energy weapon damage, less kinetic weapon damage, less explosive weapon damage, and one giving less strikecraft damage. So we will make 4 different designs with all 4 on, so we're minusing 25% damage on everything. These don't stack, so having different ones on each is optimal. Now on the max level, we get an extra slot, which are Titan class auras. You can reduce shield hit points, ship fire rate, reduce combat disengagement chance, which is a different aura to the communication jammer, so it will stack. Fire rate, tracking, daily hull and armor regen, buffs your strikecraft, buff to your weapon range 40%, and jump drive cooldown, which doesn't really matter, but then less point defense damage and fire rate, which will help your hangers. I don't know which one's most optimal, but again, we're going to have 4 Deep Space Citadels, so we can have 4 of these. Now, I've been talking about defensive platforms a lot. What are they? If we come over to ship design, we can see the defensive platform. Now, these always have 2 stages, and there's a bunch you can choose from. Small slots, P slots, G, M, L, H slots, every slot in the game you can have. We are going to utilize these weapon designs based on the location of these star bases. Like this orbital ring is all the way at the back. If they come from the wormhole, we need something with long range, so we're gonna have to combine that with something long range like hangars. Once you've designed them, you can come over to the defenses tab on the starbase, orbital ring, or deep space citadel and build them. Now, there's also ion cannons, which you unlock later on in the game, that can fit T-slot weapons, which is the Titan slots. Urination Glare is better because it has a lower cooldown, but it's going to cost you Archaeotech components. Now, we're going to make the Pitation Beam. It does less to shield, but more to armor and hull. These are really good for, like, one-shotting stuff. Probably want to stack chance to hit on them. They're going to be quite far back, so maybe even just going full armor, so you have more power, which means more damage. If we put it over here on the orbital ring, we probably want to buff up its weapon range by 50%. The ion cannons do work out to be 8 size, whereas the defense platforms are only 1 each. Now, with all the basics here, these can all be buffed up. We will get into that, but we need to find a place to actually make a Maginot system. Now, with the Starlit Citadel Origin, we can make this system 100% guaranteeable, as we do get a strange wormhole. We will have to conquer it and take it, but there are no hyperlanes. This is a purely locked off space that we can build around. There's also 1 planet. You know where this is going. Now let's go take this wormhole. It's not too difficult to take, but once you do take it down, you'll get an event which gives you a special project, Home of the Enemy, which once completed, you get a unique council position that per skill level, you'll get armor hit points in friendly systems, deep space citadel hull points 2%, and starbase upkeep -5%. That's more buffs to all the stuff we're doing. Then you can construct and claim the system. We do have a starbase right where the entrance is. This wormhole doesn't just lead back to Sol, it also has other entries, like in Pash here, Rust, or Shukon. The bigger the galaxy, the more wormholes, which means this could be a great central point to hold, pop out of the wormhole, and go crazy. You can see we do get this planet, which we can colonize. So So with this wormhole now discovered, we only have one entry point, and it's in the middle, which is quite interesting. Now, to build this up, we're obviously going to max out the Starhold into a Citadel, build that orbital ring, but then we can also grab the Deep Space Citadel. Now, I can't place them in range of certain things, even though it let me do that. That might be a bug. But my plan is to basically surround the wormhole an entry point. When they come through, they'll just be beamed from every side. Now, as well with this origin, we get the Citadel uplink. Skywatchers is a unique job that produces unity, spawns defensive armies, and increases naval capacity. But it also improves the efficiency of Deep Space Citadel starbases and defense platforms. We get more tracking and more range. So here we have no optimization at all, just over 350,000 in fleet strength, all pointed at the Morse wormhole. They might die. This is also with no defensive platforms anywhere. So the defense platform, we could get away with really short range weapons that do a lot of damage. Like disruptors could do really well. Penetrating armor and shield is very, very OP because it just nullifies that damage. Then we'll add some armor hardening just so if they have penetration, they do damage to armor and not just hull. Now we'll build these on all the close range. The orbital ring we will change a little bit. As since we are penetrating and the orbital ring is a bit far away, we will do a hanger build for the orbital rings. I'm trying to avoid using the dark matter stuff and living metal stuff just so it's more realistic. You can see now we're up even more. Anything that enters this is probably going to get beamed to death. And we haven't done our Citadel optimizations. So let's call this 1. Since we're in the fight, I'll go for the regenerative hull tissue. You can unlock this relatively easily by analyzing space amoeba or Tianki debris, which will always spawn. I just think having that regen with this much hull and armor is pretty insane. Now, for the component here, we're going to reduce all the damage from things. In terms of the buff, we'll go for daily hull and armor regen since we're stacking that. We'll make a number 2, which will reduce the explosive weapon and give our ships 5% more fire rate. Then on number 3, we'll reduce strike craft damage and reduce their ship fire rate by 10%. I think those are the best buffs you can get on them. Because we're doing defensive platforms, it's probably better to get rid of the gun batteries since ancient ramparts, like we discussed earlier, are going to buff up defense platforms way more, and we can build more. On our orbital ring, we can't actually build that, so let's build hangars. And we don't really care about shield, so I'm going to get rid of disruption field generator and get the command center since I didn't actually build ship fire rate anywhere. And this is the setup here. Now we have no buffs coming from our empire yet, so let's go through those. First up, traditions. Obviously, unyielding is the best for this. We get an agenda impenetrable order. This gives us 5% more starbase hull points, less starbase upgrade cost. Then when it's launched, it gives us 20% hull points. That's insane. Then we can get more hull points and damage increase by 33%. Watch how much that changes everything down there. That was a big jump. We can then get reduced upgrade costs, which is going to actually apply to Starlit Citadels too. So if you're building up this, go on Yielding Fist. More defense army stuff, don't really care. Next one, we don't really care about either. But while we're in a defensive war, we will get ship fire rate increased by 15%, which is insane for playing Turtle. Then max unyielding gives us 50% more defense platform cap. Yeah, defense platforms are going to go crazy. Less starbase upkeep, an ascension perk, and we can go Eternal Vigilance, which is going to be our next ascension perk, which gives more starbase damage, more hull points, more defense platform damage, more cap, less upkeep, the commander, more deep space citadel system capacity. That's where I was missing the 4th one. And every 6 months, a defense platform will be built around starbases, so you don't even have to actually build them. Yeah, we're at a few stupid numbers. Plus, I can build another deep space citadel. So let's build number 4 and grab the reloading bay, which, if you don't know where this is coming from, is our next tip, Sovereign Guardianship. This is the pinnacle civic for playing tall. There's a version for it in every different empire type. We've gone biological because machines don't get access to the council position, which is very strong. We get the reloading bay. It gives the starbase 25% ship fire rate and 2 more platform cap. That's a lot. Now, the council position is extremely strong as per level it gives more defense army damage, more starbase hull points, more starbase armor, more shield hit points in friendly systems, more ship fire rate in friendly systems, and more accuracy in friendly systems. That's per skill level. Yeah, it goes crazy. Distinguished Admiralty is very good because ship fire rate applies to defensive platforms. On top of that, Masterful Crafter's armor hit points per skill level, 1%, will also make a difference. So let's get Masterful Crafters purely for that council position. Then we can have Master Crafter, First Citadel, Warden of the Citadel. The rest doesn't really matter, let's reduce upkeep. Now we have those positions that we can fill with leaders, which is giving us a bunch of bonuses. However, when we're leveling up, we could find cancelled traits that give more defense platform damage and hull, 15 and 10%. These can stack like crazy. Now you absolutely want to go a strategist as this has more options and likelihood of defense platform bonuses. Again, you might get unlucky. None of these unfortunately matter, but there's another trait called Guardian, which gives defense platform damage and hull. We absolutely are going with that. Anything that buffs ships also buffs defense platforms, so you want to grab those. Fortifier as well is one. Starbase hull points 5%. Border Guard is also pretty good. Buffs starbases. Genius Armorer, 20% shield and armor hardening and shield and armor hit points. Okay, yeah, we're at, like 1.5 million there, and we haven't even filled out all of the defense platforms that we've gotten, so let me just quickly do that. Okay, the defense platforms are now there. This is 2 million power. And we can go another tradition. Supremacy's only bonus here is the ship fire rate, because this actually does apply to defense platforms. So you can see these numbers will go up a little bit more. We're just eking out all the power. Now you might think we're done. We're definitely not. We have edicts. Again, ship fire rate applies to defense platforms. Desperate measures. 40% in home systems. We're always in the home system. 40% is now applied. Ammunition, explosives, reactive armor, focusing crystals. They all apply. Shield boost. Numbers go up more. And if only we could get more defense platforms. That's right, we can. The Megastructure Strategic Coordinator Center gives more defense platforms empire-wide. At the first level, we're getting +4, but we can just upgrade our way through, which is giving +12, which, yeah, is a few more because it also gets the 50% bonus from Eternal Vigilance. So it's a lot more than 12. 2.7 million, I think that is. Now, I know what some of you might be typing from the last tip. You can capture them from AIs, so you can go crazy. You can't actually build more than one strategic coordinator center site. Again, I'm trying to do this minimal RNG, quite easily to build up. We're not going to go with the cheese of just getting loads from AIs, but you can. This can go crazier. Now, we actually haven't got Archeo Engineers, which would give Ancient Ramparts further buffs. There's something we can also do is actually get a Mercenary Enclave. To 100% get one, you can get a Lord of War, which gives you Mercenary Enclave capacity. You can get more from the community, but we'll just go with one for now. To make one, you need at least 50 fleet size. We've just built a big old fleet, convert into a Mercenary Enclave. Unfortunately, they do get placed on the edge of the system, but that's fine. What we want is a Mercenary Garrison. The Mercenary Garrison will give us a ship fire rate of 15% as a defensive aura. We're going to have to sacrifice one of our starbase buildings. I think it's going to be the sublight speed, you know. Now, on top of all of this, repeatable technologies also do apply. So this, in theory, with strikecraft damage or defense platform damage 10%, can go infinite. You just have to stack these percent modifiers. But if you've got spare tech to get these repeatables, you can do it. But we're not going to use the repeatables, but it's a possibility. Now, if you got lucky and got the Zeroni Stormcaster, you can absolutely use this. It makes a huge system-wide storm that is going to be permanently here. There's less evasion chance, but your shield hit points go up by 50%. However, there's 100% armor nullification, sub speed is reduced, accuracy is reduced, ship fire rate is reduced, disengagement chance is reduced, and eventually FTL cooldown is increased. You get this from the Zeroni Precursor, which you can optimize for with the new Precursor selection. We're not going to use it here. This is an option though. Just make sure to spam shields. We can also whack subterfuge on just for the evasion chance and tracking. I actually have no idea if evasion chance happens for star bases and defense platforms. Let me know in the comments, but at least we can get that tracking going. You could go for Defender of the Galaxy. 50% more damage to Crisis factions is pretty nice. Or Galactic Contender against Fallen Empires, Awakened Empires, Gate Builders, or Void Worms. Now, there's obviously something else we are slightly overlooking, and that's the Bulwark. So we do have to be someone's Bulwark, so if we did ask be their vassal, we can then be Bulwark. What does this do? Well, this gives the subject 50% more platform damage, 50% more hull points, more cap, more starbase damage, hull, armor hardening, shield hardening, 100% more shield hit points. So the Zeroni Stormcaster would go crazy. Now, to make this a lot easier and not rely on AIs, you could do this with a friend. You could try and protect your friend. So once we get to tier 2, 75%, a further 10% on armor hardening, and 3 more defense platforms, but of course those also get the percent buffs we got. Once we get up to tier 3, we get 100% defense platform damage and hull points, 8 defense platforms, 75% damage and hull points from star bases, and 25% shield and armor hardening. We do also get the Bulwark Battle Right construction ship, and hostiles get minus 0.3% daily hull regen, and if we have unyielding, is an additional 0.2. So every day they'll get minus 0.5% in hull. You can see these have already gone up an insane amount, and we have more defense platforms to fill. Now we can actually get that Battle Right ship. which you can see is giving daily hull regen on allied ships. They'll just sit all the way back there and just give us 5% daily hull regen. From my knowledge, this is probably the strongest that we can get. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing anything obvious. We're of course not doing any repeatables or rare technologies. And let's test it out. Okay, so I want to see how this Fallen Empire is going to do. Grand Admiral Fallen Empire, you know how it is. But 700k, we have the power to beat them, but does it work in practice? Let's see. They instantly get in, and my gosh, they get annihilated. Well, that was like 5 days? They took out a few defense platforms, like 2. But the bypass, lack of evasion, like it's not optimal usually to actually spam disruptors on defense platforms, but because we can place them where they spawn, it's stupid. If you had a hyperlane over here, but longer range by the starbase, spam them with long range weapons, but bypass short range works so well when they spawn here. Now, the settings were Grand Admiral, 25 times Crisis, so it's only natural to see if that's possible. It probably isn't. 25 times is very strong. Let's try the Unbidden. Let's send the 5.3 in first, see if we can actually beat that. Now, this is not optimized to actually defeat the Unbidden, as they have mass armor damage, so we'd want to load up on shield, and we know they're going to have shields, so we'd probably want to spam kinetic artilleries, stuff like that. But we can see what happens. The 5.3 is down to 4.9, 4.7. One Citadel's down, though. 2's down. Starbase is falling. Starbase is down. Oh, they're down to 2 million. The Deep Sea Citadels are doing it. Orbital Ring's almost dead, though. Another one's down. And the last one's down. But we did take out... This is not a great combat report, but we took out 4 million power? Okay, since that was so close, I want to optimize it and see if there's a world we win. Autocannons are probably what we want to spam. It has more shield and hull damage, which they're made of. They have no armor. Then we will load it up with as many damage shields as possible. Then grab shield, hardening. I think they have disruptors. We will reduce their shield hit points. In terms of defense platforms, the disruptors, I think, went crazy. I feel like if we just make them all shields, and I think on the orbital ring, we do missiles to try and take out their big stuff that penetrates shields. Let's see how this does. Just changing the designs. Orbital ring instantly got killed? What do you mean? Did this do worse? It did the same, I guess. Okay, I've given ourselves 10 repeatables, which for 25 times Crisis run is not too bad. We're up to basically 6 million. If this doesn't take out the Unbidden, then I suck. Let's see. Look at those missiles go in. Yes. The Citadel does fall. Do fall. But we do win. Now, 25 times Crisis are very hard because their damage is insane. So being close range like this is not ideal. You want to be far away and pump damage into them before they can hit you. But this is the backbones to building an insane Maginot system. You don't have to do this exact thing, but hopefully I've shown you all the buffs and mechanics of how this works so you can apply it to your own game. I might have missed stuff. People are leaving comments about how I could have improved this, which I'm grateful for. So if you want to read more about it, go check those comments out. In the meantime, check out the run I did on the Starlit Citadel for the first time, where I'm discovering how it all works. Click it now.